Recording in progress.
Are we ready to go? Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Pacific Grove City Council. We're here in council chambers. It's Wednesday, March 4th, 6 p.m. at City Hall at 300 Forest Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. Calling this meeting to order at this time. And I'll ask that we have all council members present tonight on the dais, as well as our city manager and city attorney. And at this time, I'll ask Councilmember Garfield to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And at this time, item 1, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Rao, second by Paduri. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. We'll take the agenda as stated. Moving on to item 2, presentations. We have one presentation tonight. Presentation recognizes the Pacific Grove 12U baseball team, the 54s, for their participation in the July 2026 Cooperstown, New York baseball tournament and their tribute to the 54th Coastal Artillery Regiment. Coach Tope, I'll have you come up. Okay. Microphone, please.
Nice to see everybody. So we decided we're headed to Cooperstown this year in July, and we decided to do a little bit more than just baseball. The team here is all gathered from Pacific Grove and other communities, and we thought we combine a little bit of Pacific Grove history and some of the learning experience as well as just practicing baseball and get ready for our tournaments and our season. So I'll let this gentleman start off the presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Pacific Grove City Council. My name is Hunter Tope, and we are here, the 54th Baseball Club. My teammates and I have grown up playing baseball here in PG and Monterey County. Tonight, we're here to share our news about our 12U baseball team and to highlight the meaningful local history connected to our name.
This summer, we will be traveling to Cooperstown, New York, and compete in a national baseball tournament alongside teams from across the country. We will also tour the National Baseball Hall of Fame, home of America's pastime.
Our team name, the 54s, is in honor of the 54th Coastal Regiment Artillery Regiment, who was stationed near Point Pinos Lighthouse here in Pacific Grove during World War II.
The 54th Coastal Artillery Regiment was the only all-African American heavy artillery unit in the U.S. Army during World War II.
During World War II, America had a segregated military where citizens of different ethnic and racial backgrounds could not serve side by side.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the regiment was deployed in February 1942 to guard against potential Japanese invasion along the California coast.
The 54th occupied key positions including Lighthouse Point in Santa Cruz, Point Pinos Lighthouse in Pacific Grove, Morro Bay, and Pismo Beach. In Pacific Grove, the regiment was stationed near the Point Pinos Lighthouse.
Some of the 54 soldiers had played baseball in the Negro Leagues. During wartime in Pacific Grove, the local players and soldiers forgot their differences and played baseball together and created the Twilight League.
The regiment's presence in California had a lasting social impact. After the war, several members of the unit returned to the Central Coast with their families.
On a return from Cooperstown, we hope to create a permanent plaque in honor of the 54th and its unique contribution to Pacific Grove. Thank you for your time, and we hope you see you at our booth at Good Old Days. And if you have any questions, ask.
Well done. That was excellent. Thank you so much. Coach, do you have any other comments?
No, we're just, again, thanks for the opportunity to come in. It's been, it's a lot of fun. These kids have all played together for a long time, and, you know, going to Cooperstown for us is kind of like the culmination of their Little League experience. So we're honored and look forward to spreading more about what we're trying to do and raise awareness of, you know, a very unique historical event here in Pacific Grove. So
Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. Councilmember Rao?
If people would like to donate to your cause, how would they do that?
PayPal,
In the mic. So people at
like
home.
PayPal or just, I don't know.
we have an Instagram account.
Okay.
That we will,
Instagram.
PG54baseballclub.com, I think is our website.
Perfect. And I'll be resending that out, and I'm pretty sure Joyce will pick that up as well. Thank you. Congratulations.
Chaps?
Yes, thank you. I know both of my kids play baseball. So first of all, Coach Tope and all the coaches here and everybody else coaching in PG and other surrounding areas, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for actually elevating PG on a national scale here. And thank you for also elevating the 54th Artillery. First of all, in addition to all of those, I think I actually like the design of your hats, and 54 is something that we can proudly wear. So I think as you look towards kind of funding yourselves and looking for the future too with other folks that are in town, it may not be a bad idea to also sell kind of some of these merchandise, because I for one, like my son collects caps. So this is one of those things that we do all the time. So I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you all for coming here, and you guys hit it off the park. Thanks.
Awesome. I like the hats too. Joe?
I just wanted to wish all of you well in Cooperstown and think of all of you. All of you could be at Cooperstown someday. Name emblazed on the wall.
Thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate it. Great mission. And I you know, I love the hats. I love the mission and everything you're doing for the community. Thank you. So we'll move on to number 3, council and staff announcements. So we'll start with council members. Do you have any council member announcements? Councilmember McDonald?
Thank you. I actually have 3 announcements tonight. And first is just to let people know that we are in the time that the seal ordinance is in effect. So no loud work is allowed on the public right of way from Erdely to 10th Street along Ocean View Boulevard. On a semi-related note, unfortunately, they have determined that there is avian flu now in Año Nuevo. They have seen that in some of the marine mammals there. So we're letting people know that it's important to keep a safe distance from wildlife. That includes pets, especially dogs, because it is contagious to both pets and people. We haven't seen it in Pacific Grove here yet, but we want people to be aware that it has transitioned into the marine mammal population. Just so this is on the record, if you see a dead or injured seal or sea lion, please contact the Marine Mammal Center hotline at 415-289-SEAL, which is 7325. And they can either respond or they may refer you to the NOAA hotline, because the NOAA hotline responds to the deceased animals. And so that number would be 866-767-6114. And we also wanted to let people know there was a seal with a fresh shark bite this morning. It's the only seal we've seen at Hopkins, unfortunately, for the last week or so. But be aware if you are in or near the water that we are seeing shark activity again. Thanks.
Anyone else? Council or staff member announcements?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a couple of announcements tonight. First announcements will come from Deputy City Manager Halby, and the second will come from Chief Day if he wants to queue up as well.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm excited to announce that we have released information related to the cannabis lottery process. So phase 3, which is the cannabis lottery, will be held on Monday, March 30th at 5 p.m. here in the City Council chambers. We will also be providing viewing via Zoom. All of that information, including some additional details about how the lottery process will go, is available on the city's webpage, cityofpacificgrove.org, and it's linked there on the news section. Second announcement is Recreation Department 2026 summer programs are now available for registration. We got a really great listing of opportunities for summer programming, everything from dance, swim, and engineering type camps. So we encourage everybody to take a look at our website and view the offerings as well as register. And then lastly, our recreation department is recruiting for camp counselors, sports assistants, lifeguards, and swim instructors. And all of that information related to these jobs are available on the city's website as well. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor Smith and Honorable City Council. It's my esteemed pleasure to publicly announce the implementation of our coastal enforcement and education program. So really this was kind of an idea that had come to light with previous administrations, but through some hard work and planning in correlation with the city manager's office, we were able to kind of identify some of the boxes that we needed to check to make this a reality. And so some of that had to do with training up our community service officers through PC 832, which is certification for powers of arrest. Our CSOs, by authority of the vehicle code, are authorized to write things like parking tickets, but really nothing above that kind of nature of a citation. And so what 832 does is certify them and authorize them to enforce other more significant issues such as city ordinances, muni codes, things of that nature. And so really the emphasis is on education and just having a presence in our coastal area and on the rec trail, and also in, you know, those incidents where it's necessary to take enforcement action. And so prior to the council being seated tonight, I just put a stat sheet out in front of each of your chairs. And so this is a really unique way for us to kind of analyze our progress over the next year. Not that the collecting of stats will end after the first year, but really a way for the police department to efficiently study trends and statistics and, you know, quality of life issues, and, you know, dispel misnomers and actually factually address those issues that are most important to the community. So we do see it as a very efficient use of public safety personnel and deployment. And, you know, again, just it's very exciting because this is something I think that's been talked about around here for quite a number of years. And of course, I used the city manager to, you know, just kind of develop and go down the list and see what it was that we exactly needed to do to accomplish that. So I think we've made it a reality. I'm very proud of it. March 1st was the implementation date. And, you know, it'll be kind of a ramp up through the first month in March. You know, these CSOs are newly trained. We have one that is currently transferring from the PST role to the CSO. So there will be that field training time. And then I always like to say, wait, there's more. As far as the patrols that are going on down in the coastal area and on the rec trail, the CSOs will actually be deployed on police e-bikes. So the idea there is to cover more ground in a shorter amount of time and be able to respond to emerging issues in an efficient time. So that concludes my announcement, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are some.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate the announcement. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick question. Is there any change to the policy if people notice something on the trail, or is it still just called the non-emergency hotline?
You know, I think we'll consistently and constantly be evaluating that. For now, we have not made changes to that. Really, the priority is getting our CSOs situated down there, getting the proper equipment worked out, and just kind of seeing how the first few weeks roll out.
Great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Okay, so we're staff complete. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to 4 general public comment. This is comment on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city, but not on tonight's regular agenda. So if you have such a comment, please step forward. We'll take chambers first. We have someone in chambers. Go ahead.
Peggy Gibbs, CEO and co-founder of Pacific Grove Cares.
PG Cares is proud to be a member of Keep America Beautiful, and just last week, I was honored to attend the National Summit, joined by more than 500 nonprofit executives, state leaders, mayors, and local officials from communities just like ours. We heard remarkable stories. In Tennessee, one affiliate is leading cleanup of the Tennessee River. In a small Indiana town of 500, they have 400 volunteers. Imagine that. Almost everyone. What an impact. What we witnessed was deeply inspiring. People on fire for their communities. Volunteers dedicating to hours of picking up litter, planting trees, revitalizing parks, and strengthening civic pride. Stories of service, personal responsibility, and neighbors helping neighbors. We met leaders building powerful partnerships between nonprofits, local governments, businesses, and civic groups. These collaborations are transforming neighborhoods, not just physically, but socially. They are building connections, pride, and resilience. Keep America Beautiful has been doing this work since 1953. Today, it represents nearly 700 local affiliates and millions of volunteers across the country. Its mission is simple but powerful: to spark action and pride in the places we call home, because everyone does deserve to live in a clean, green, and beautiful community. Pacific Grove absolutely embodies this spirit. Our participation connects us to coast network of innovation, best practices, training, proven programs, and grant opportunities. Grants that can help us multiply the impact of every hour and every dollar donated. Together, they create a big impact. Beautification is not cosmetic, it's foundational. Clean and welcoming public spaces support local business, strengthen tourism, improve public health, and enhance civic morale. They bring people together. What we saw at the summit affirms something important: small towns can lead. Pacific Grove can lead. PG Cares remains committed to the work the city is doing and to maintain a vibrant and connected community, one volunteer, park, and block at a time. And we are honored to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone online?
We have one hand raised, Mayor. Jane Haynes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I want to address 4 issues during this public comment. First, I want to thank the Pacific Grove 2U baseball team for reminding us of this city's history and for representing Pacific Grove and Cooperstown. I think that's great, and thank you. Second, I want to thank staff, particularly Sandra, for understanding and responding to my request that comment letters be posted in a manner that preserves their meaning. Sandra understood my concern and promptly assured me that will be done in the future. It will further the council's goal of encouraging public participation in city affairs, and I greatly appreciate it. Third, I want to mention that the housing element states on page 320 that a rental assistance program would be presented to the City Council by January 2026. That time has passed. The program's goal is to assist at least 10 lower-income renter households to obtain housing. Will staff please clarify when and if the rental assistance program will come before the council? I would appreciate staff providing that information. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
There are no other hands raised, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and close general public comment. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda deals with routine and non-controversial matters and may include action on resolutions, ordinances, or other public hearings for which testimony is not anticipated. This consent agenda is, are there any members of the council that would like to pull an item? Walking stick, Paul walking stick.
8A, please.
8A, storefront cannabis, okay. 8A is pulled.
That's what I was gonna pull.
Okay. All right. And anyone online, we've already pulled 8A cannabis. And I have,
We do have one, Amara Morrison.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Smith and members of the council and staff. I am going to address the council on item 8A, if that is permissible.
we've already been, it's been pulled, so we're not at public comment at this time on that item.
Will there be an opportunity to?
There will be. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are we good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, can I entertain a motion on consent, accepting 8A therefrom?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Walking Stick, second by Emilio. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much, staff, for bringing these reports. We'll now turn our attention to item 8A, storefront retail cannabis business licensing information. And I'll recognize City Manager Mogensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so the item 8A tonight is intended to be an informational only item. And it addresses some of the questions that we've received over the last, I guess, couple of months, and they've been in different iterations of those questions. So the memo that was posted was simply intended to provide a history of how we have addressed those comments in the past. And that pretty much speaks for itself, I think, from that standpoint.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go to public comment on the item 8A.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? Ms. Morrison did want to make comment.
Yes. Amara Morrison, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Amber Morrison, and I'm an attorney with Redwood Public Law. And I'll just point out, I'm a former city attorney for 2 East Bay cities. I'm here tonight as counsel for NUG Pacific Grove LLC, one of the applicants in your commercial cannabis permitting process. Appreciate the opportunity to address the council relative to consent calendar item 8A. I hope that you received our letter, which was submitted yesterday and which relates to our request this evening. And the request is as follows. We respectfully request that the council pull, which you already have, consent agenda item A, but agendize the memo for a full discussion and deliberation at a future council meeting. And we request that you do so either before the lottery, which was just announced is going to be held on March the 30th, or we ask that you postpone the lottery until the deliberations on the memorandum can occur. And the reasons for this request are as follows. You obviously know there are 10 applications for the one commercial license, which have been determined to be eligible for proceeding to the lottery phase. As we have argued previously, we believe and argue that 8 of these applications are interrelated and they're subject to common and overlapping ownership interests. We've previously stated on the record, in writing, and before the council, even at last month's council meeting, that we feel it's improper for the city to ignore its own ordinance's definition of, quote, owner. The city's definition of owner mirrors the definition found in the state's cannabis licensing statute. We've outlined kind of the 4 elements of what constitutes an owner. I won't belabor that point, it's in our letter. And so we request that as a part of the council's deliberation on the memo, staff and the city's consultant be asked to explain how or why common ownership in parent companies or affiliated enterprises is not relevant under state law or under the city's own ordinance. I just want to point out that the memorandum omits the city's basis for proceeding with the permitting process without undertaking the kind of ownership inquiry that our client, frankly, has been requesting for many months now. In other words, the city's cannabis permitting process webpage just simply asserts the city's categorical compliance with the requirements of state law without any kind of explanation as to how the permitting process complies with state law, particularly around the question of various applicants' ownership interests. Our client has submitted a PRA request to Monterey related to similar commercial cannabis permitting or licensing effort. We've included the results of that PRA request, which show a clear interrelationship between the 8 applicants. Thank you. I just want to note, this is a question of fairness and equity, and the council. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Another
So-
hand raised.
Okay, so just going to state this for the record. This is an informational only item and it has not been agendized for action. That's on here. So with that, I'll recognize Councilman Walking Stick.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been deeply concerning. I've watched this hoping that the process that we had put in place on June 18th, when we approved the updated cannabis licensing ordinance, I had certainly hoped that permit application stacking would have been prevented in that. But I'll take my share of the blame for my own lack of vision on how this process would have turned out. And I'm not happy with how it's going right now. I'm unhappy with the fact that we don't have, according to the report that just came in, says twice in the report, there's clearly nothing in Pacific Grove's cannabis ordinance that prohibits the stacking of applications by related parties. Goes on to further say, the city stated in its response that nothing in the city's licensing process prohibits the alleged affiliation with common entity. Those are problems. Those are major structural problems with our process, and we still have time to fix it. And this kind of feels like a lot like our last off-ramp to do that. So I would rather do the right thing and maybe step on some toes than allow the wrong thing to happen and try and clean it all up afterwards. I think taking care of it ahead of time, being more proactive with this and taking responsibility for it now will help us in the long run and will make this an easier process in the long run instead of setting ourselves up for a future disaster. And most importantly, I want us to be in the right and craft good law. And we tried, and a process isn't necessarily a one and done. We try things, we get feedback, we see where it's got failures, and then we fix it. And this, to me, I think this is then we fix it part. This is the fix it part. So, and I can get shot down on this maybe later, but I've got justification for it. I move that we pause the permit award process and agendize the discussion regarding an ordinance that prevents cannabis permit application stacking. I base this on advice from Brian Purick. It was emailed to Matt Mogensen, City Manager Matt Mogensen, on April 14th, 2025. Quote, the legislative body may take action related to the agenda item as described in the subject section of the agenda, even if that action is not included as one of the specified recommendations. This is very clearly storefront, retail, commercial cannabis business licensing, and that is exactly what I'm trying to address, is I want that licensing process to be fair. I don't feel it is fair right now. So I've got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I'll recognize the city attorney to talk to the efficacy of the motion.
This is agendized only, and it's explicit under the options there that it's not been agendized for action, so motion on this would be improper.
Thank you. Councilmember, or Mayor Pro Tem Amelia.
Thank you. I have some questions, clarifying questions on 8A. Has the city, maybe Mr. Morgensen can answer this, or Ms. Hallaby, has the city followed the lottery process on this? I understood Ms. Hallaby talked about it. The lottery process is going to be followed.
Yeah, so council member, our duty has been to implement the ordinance, which is exactly what we've done so far as it's been approved and written by the council years ago.
Okay. I have a couple other, has there been out of the 8 or 9 applicants out of the 10 or whatever it was there an appeal process in the from the applicants? Was there any appeal process?
So there are different appeals processes throughout the process, if you will, to get all the way to the cannabis getting a permit. But if the process or appeal part you're talking about is on the applications that are eligible for the lottery, yes, there was a 10-day appeal process that ran, I think, the beginning of January.
January 5th for 10 days.
And did we get any appeals within the 10 days?
No, we did not.
Those are some of the questions I had. I may have some later, Mayor.
All right. Well, and we'll take further any comments people have, and then that'll be it though.
Thank you. I know this has been floating around with these letters and questions, etc. So I just want to have a few things like just clear, just for my sake here. One is we obviously the city's laws allow stacking to take place. Am I correct on that or not?
So Councilmember, I think what I could really direct you back to is the memo. I would say that the memo and all of our responses to this has been at the advice of our special counsel. So staff has not come to these representations by ourselves, so it has been vetted.
Okay. So with that being said, it is my understanding per the report that the staff, we had communicated to all the applicants the existing laws that Pacific Grove had that included the fact that somebody could actually submit more than one application or effectively stack everything that was provided to the applicants, correct?
I'll ask Ms. Hallaby if she can respond to the FAQs and how that kind of came together.
Yes, there were two FAQs that are relevant to the question you posed. So throughout the application process window, we allowed questions and we constantly responded to the questions received. There was one question: can multiple applicants be submitted on the same property by different entities that have no common ownership? And the city's response was yes, there are no restrictions in the existing ordinance that would prohibit this. And then subsequently, we received a question: what if said owners or individuals, applicants with no common ownership in the applying entity, have common ownership in other entities, a parent company, or private contracts that constitute economic ownership? And the city responded, there are no restrictions in the existing ordinance that would prohibit this.
Okay, so what I'm getting at is effectively it was a level playing field from what I understand from how staff has responded to this FAQs, meaning anybody could have submitted more than one application through the process. I understand there are some questions around ownership here. And my question to the attorney here is, effectively, there was a higher kind of governing body for this, the MAUCRSA or the Department of Cannabis. Do you know if we have vetted our process with either of those higher agencies?
It is before my time when that went through. I don't know if staff recalls the process. By the state or some sort of state law. Yeah.
So what is the answer? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
It was before my time, but as I hear it, it appears it wasn't, although it didn't necessarily need to be vetted by the state as it was being drafted.
Sorry, my question is this: like, there's some ownership-related questions that I've come across. Has Department of Cannabis agreed that that doesn't come into play here, or has come into play here, but we're okay?
The city manager and I had a meeting with Department of Cannabis Control last week, and that issue was not brought up to us as any kind of issue or problem. Does that?
So,
and in my tenure, that's the only communication I've had with that administrative agency.
You may have to talk to special counsel directly on some of these questions.
okay, and I don't see like special counsel here. So it seems like Department of Cannabis actually contacted us, or we contacted Department of Cannabis and vetted something at least, right? It appears to be based on.
If I could back up to your first question, I think the answer to has the Department of Cannabis ever vetted our ordinance? I don't know the answer to that right now, but I also don't know that's required. We can pass our own ordinance. On the second question, we were contacted, or the city attorney's office was contacted by an attorney at the Department of Cannabis, and he asked some questions, and this is not one that came up.
Okay. So here's where I am. So I think we've the city, from a legal standpoint, we've done what we can to provide communication and information to everybody. I think the intent of the lottery was to keep it really fair. And I think we're so far, we're communicating the right things to the applicants to say to keep it fair. I understand the way it's looking right now is certainly it looks like lottery by volume rather than lottery by competition. But the fact is, at least from a procedural perspective, we seem to have done all the right things to make sure that everybody is able to submit as many applications as they can, which unfortunately doesn't seem to have happened. So that's where I stand right now. Unless I think we have more insight into anything that is going on, seems like, at least in my opinion, we have to some extent vetted what is required from the Department of Cannabis, and or HDL may have done their work to ensure that the ownership kind of does not come into play here. And actually on that note, sorry, does HDL review these applications for ownership, kind of like status quo between applications? Do you know? So there's obviously there's 8 applications. Seems like all of them were effectively submitted by one kind of owner or I don't know, but seems like they're all interrelated. Does HDL kind of look into the interrelatedness of these applications?
Unless you have a better answer, I will say that, so we had administrative rules and regulations that the council passed last summer, I believe, that were going to be used to vet the applications. So between the administrative rules and regulations and our ordinance, those are the review criteria that HDL used to review all the applications that came in. So in terms of like the ownership structure and everything, their review of it was they're not violating the ordinance and what they have done.
Okay. All right. So this is a received report. So I just can answer questions. So we'll see how this turns out. But thank you for the information.
Councilmember Garfield.
Thank you. I'd like to back way up to understand what the assertions are that are floating around. It sounds like, if you look at it this most negatively, people are asserting that there's something shady going on. I don't know that it is, but I want to make sure we're looking at that to make sure we're not being party to somebody pulling a fast one. So when you say they're all the same, I'd like to know what the actual complaint is for the people saying that things are being done improperly when they talk about ownership, shared governance. Could somebody please explain that to me?
If you guys understand the question and can respond to it.
Councilmember, I don't know that I can entirely characterize everything wholly accurately, but I believe that the speaker who just spoke was the heart of their issue, is what they described to you and they felt was wrong. And it's probably encapsulated in their letter too.
Okay, so I've read the letters and I've tried to follow through on this, but the assertions seem muddy enough that I don't really fully understand what's being asserted. And I want to make sure that we're not enabling something to happen that's not a good outcome for the city. So I would be happy if anybody can clarify that. I mean, are these applicants, in what way are the applicants related to one another?
Which applicants?
We have 10 applicants, 9 of which are supposed to be somehow interconnected.
Okay, you're asking how are the 9 interconnected?
Exactly how are those supposed to be interrelated?
Okay, and so this is an information only. So if you have the information, we'll share it at this time. If not, we'll send a memo to the council on that issue.
So the 8 applications, as best I could characterize it as well, because is that there appears that there's a parent company, if you will, and then there's applications that have been submitted by individuals who are somehow associated with a parent company, but they're all under an individual name. So,
But what do you mean by somehow associated? I think that's really muddy.
that's
I mean, that's what's being asserted, but I don't get why they feel like that's a disqualifier. In what, if they're interrelated because they are aliases and they're trying to fool us into thinking that these are actually individual people and they're not, that's one thing. But to say that they are part of a network or they are a part of an association, of course, that would be a perfectly understandable thing. I don't understand what they're asserting is wrong with the folks that are supposed to be interrelated, because I don't understand. They're not stating the interrelatedness specifically.
Okay, Councilman Rowe.
Each one of these has a unique and different LLC, is that correct? And each one has a different EIN, is that correct?
Have a different LLC, that's correct.
So, I mean, what it looks like to me is that somebody followed the rules. They read the FAQs. They saw that it was allowed. They spent at least $6,400 making different LLCs. They, and in addition to the $10,000 application fee for each one of these, I mean, you know, I think what happens is that if you play by the rules and then somebody wants to change the rules, I think that's not going to bode well for the city. And so from my perspective, they knew what the rules were. They played by the rules. It's time to enter the lottery drawing and let's see where it goes. I mean, this, you know, we don't know who's going to win in the lottery, right? So this may be, you know, this may be all for naught. So, from my perspective, they followed the rules. Let's move the program forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and close this item out for the night. I think we've gotten asked a lot of questions and answered a lot of questions and given a lot of information on the item. We're starting to get into discussing the policy and debating, and I think that we're getting a little bit far out from the item. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. So where are we? I think we're 11A. FY 25-26 mid-year budget modifications.
Good evening, Mayor and fellow council members. So tonight again, we're having our Assistant Director, Jessica, kind of give the presentation on the mid-year. Some good news overall, which we'll talk about just in a second, but I'm going to turn it over at this point to Jessica.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Smith. Bear with me. I'm just going to get this set up so I can share the slideshow with you. Great. So I'm presenting the mid-year financial update, which also includes the mid-year amendment for fiscal year 25-26 budget. Just a little bit of background on the fiscal year 25-26 budget. Council will remember we actually approved a 2-year budget back in June. And so both years were based on projected conservative growth. And both years were projected to meet the general fund reserve requirement of 25%. It is worth noting that in that budget, we also had a 5-year forecast. And the 5-year forecast did project fund deficits for each year, lowering the fund balances. This is just a summary of the fiscal year 25-26 budget, the proposed amendments, and then the overall changes from those proposed amendments. So the fiscal year 25-26 budget projected revenues of about $32.7 million, expenditures of about $33.8 million, and capital outlay expenditures of $870,000. So we originally proposed an operating deficit of about $1.9 million. And with current amendments, we're proposing revenue increases of about $700,000, as well as additional expenditures of about $294,000. So Overall, it is an improvement, but unfortunately, we're still projecting deficits of about 1.5 million. A little bit of background on what's driving those changes. So we're looking at updating the revenues for 700,000. And the two factors on that are increased property taxes, projections for 200,000 of increased property taxes, and also increased projections for an additional 500,000 in transient occupancy tax. And the reason for the increases on the transient occupancy tax are twofold. One, we're performing a little bit better this year than we were last year, year to date, between like 4 and 5% increase in performance. And then when we originally proposed the budget, we did not include transient occupancy tax projections for the Kimpton Hotel. It's going back to being conservative. We wanted to make sure the hotel was up and operating beforehand. So now we can update the budget to include those projections. And then the expenditures for general fund that we're proposing, we really tried to keep it at a minimum for obvious reasons. And so what we have here are really just essentials. The first one is an increase in the Monterey Fire contract. And that's because we came to council late last year for true up. And so we went back and looked, and on average, the true up invoice that we get from Monterey Fire is usually about 3% of the overall contract. Additionally, they did inform us to expect the true up to be a little bit more this year because of added paramedic services. And then we're also proposing 115,000 for elevator repairs at the youth center. That summarizes everything on the general fund budget amendment. The next items are related to non-general fund budget amendments. I should note that everything on the next 2 pages are just expenditure budget amendments. We didn't adjust the revenues for non-general fund, as those revenues don't fluctuate as much and we don't anticipate them changing. So everything that we're proposing in the non-general fund budget amendment will be funded through current non-general fund balances that exist. So some of the key items to highlight are an additional request from gas tax fund for 111,000 for speed surveys. And then also in funds 30, 34, and 36, those are all related to grant funding for housing projects. So housing rehabilitation is what we have set up for those projects at this time. And moving on to the second page are our enterprise funds. I'll just point out there's the large amount in sewer fund for 1.3 million, but I do want to note that that was already approved in the 26-27 budget. It's just that Public Works is looking to move the timeline up on the project because there's some time constraints. So where we'll see this budget request for increased funding in fiscal year 25-26, we'll see a reduction in the requests for sewer fund in fiscal year 26-27. And then Gulf Fund, there was a lot going on with Gulf Fund this year. So overall, we're looking at expenditure savings of about 29,000. And mostly this is due to the renegotiation of the lease contract for Corsco, that we expect the utility costs to go down a little bit for that. The overall adjustments for non-general fund budgets is 1.7 million. And that's the conclusion of the presentation, and the recommendations are on the screen.
And I'm going to just add a couple quick comments too. I really want to commend staff, our staff basically. If you looked overall in the presentation, the adjustments are relatively minor. I mean, the expense adjustments are less than 1%. And, our revenue is pretty much right on about 2%. So really, again, want to commend staff. Shows the effectiveness, of the 2-year budget approach that we do. The other thing that was mentioned in the staff report too, I just want to highlight very quickly, was that it's proposed to take one of our associates planners and basically reclassify it as a senior planner. Basically, there really won't be any net effect because we were already underfilling our principal planner as a senior planner. So as a result, what will happen, we'll have 2 senior planners and 1 associate planner. The net effect of that reclass was about 19,000, but because it was in the staff report, not in our PowerPoint, I just wanted to call attention to that as well too. So
Thank you.
that's it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the report. We'll go to public comment on this. Item 11A.
online, Mayor.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment on this. Bring it back to council for action. Appreciate the staff report. Appreciate the good news on the revenue change, 700,000 plus. That's great. That's always good. Yes.
The great thing is we're still meeting our 25% overall goal that council established last year as well too.
The reserves.
The reserves, exactly.
Got it. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So I know that we tend to err on the side of caution when we project that $500,000 for the Kempton. That is a conservative projection. Is that correct?
It's a conservative, basically what we looked at, a couple things. I really have to commend Jessica. She did a very thorough job in kind of looking through our revenues, for this year. So the 500,000 is kind of a combination of a couple things. We were, as you mentioned earlier, a little bit conservative with our TOT because it does tend to fluctuate quite a bit. And with Kempton, obviously it came online a little bit later, than we thought. So we wanted to kind of hold down those as well too. There's a little bit of uncertainty with the economy right now. So again, we wanted to kind of just be cautious because that could affect both TOT and sales tax. So.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, and thank you for preparing this report. I would first of all, to your point, commend staff and entire staff to take a prudent approach. Being conservative helps. I know, from just comparing even neighboring cities, I think we're on a better footing here. So thank you. And my question just was to ask a very simple question: do we have some revenues from the Kempton that we know of right now? Because one full month has passed. Do you know?
So if I remember right, Jessica, I think does it come monthly or quarterly? Go ahead. Do you know that one? I think it's monthly if I remember right. And because they literally just started in February, they have basically 30 days from the end of the month for payment. So we likely won't get it until sometime this month or April. So it's a little bit early at this point. So, but we're obviously excited about it.
Okay, great. So I think more to follow, but thanks for keeping us in check and hoping to continue this trend moving forward. Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep, I'm going to make a motion on this, but prior to the motion, I was at the Recreation Commission meeting with one pretty long time, and they were talking various things, and on the back of my mind always is the skateboard park, and I didn't see that in the budget.
We did not put that in the budget.
So the only thing, it's in the back of my mind still. My recreation department is doing a subcommittee dealing with that. So, but anyway, I'd like to make a motion to introduce and hold the first reading of the ordinance to amend the operating and capital project budget and employee position allocations for the fiscal year 25-26. And the publication of the ordinance will be satisfied by publication of the summary approved by the city attorney.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Murillo, second by Councilmember Rao. Any further discussion? Councilmember Garfield.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the approach you all take where we estimate revenues low and expenses high. And when we turn out to be that the actual result is more moderate, then it's all good stuff. I do appreciate that I've looked at the 5-year implications of this small amount of lessening a draw on our surplus. And it does carry out, there's only the 4th year where we fall below 25% out of the 5 years. So this is not an improvement just for this year. It does ripple through. I would, however, say, I hope that this will happen again. We have some expenses coming up that we're already committed to in terms of the breakwater at Lovers Point. That's going to require some money. We have some expenses coming up for our capital assets like Chautauqua Hall. So looking ahead for a full 5 years is really important and not getting too giddy about a little bit of extra money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate all of your work and the fact that how well you work with the other departments to bring in everything. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a voice vote on this. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you very much for staying on top of the budget. And we appreciate the information in a very well done and succinct manner. Appreciate that. Now we'll move on to item 12A. This is the status update and review of work plan. City Manager Matt Mogensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we typically do a 2-year work plan and our budget's been annual, but every year we've been checking in about this time in the mid of the 2 years to make sure that, I guess, first of all, to give you a better update than we do just quarterly, which is a consent calendar item with the narratives. But also sometimes, you want to make some adjustments based on budgetary stuff. This year it's a little bit different. You just saw our mid-year budget it's pretty bare bones of what we were changing and what we're asking to change. So what I would like to do is give you a deeper update, but at the end of it, if there's anything within here that you feel that we should reconsider and maybe not pursue at this time, this would be a good time to probably discuss that. There's also a list of projects that have been allocated or have been directed by the council that are outside of this work plan, but I also wanted to kind of update you on to make sure that you know the status of that. And then we have more staff level contract or projects, if you will, that are significant work efforts that need to be done that are kind of things that are important to the city. But we'll update you quickly on that as well. So with that, Sandra has put this chart on the screen and hopefully you can see it. I'm going to use a hard copy just in case. So the good news I want to report on is you see the green boxes with check marks in them. Those are items that are already done. So at this point, we are midway through the third quarter of our first year of this cycle, and we've completed 9 of 27 of our supporting tasks so far. So I think we're on a good track here, and we've tried to lay these out in somewhat of a strategic manner so that, some build on others and so that we could get through the whole plan within the 2 years. But we won't go through the ones that are completed, but if you have questions at the end, please feel free to ask. So the first one you come to that's still under development is develop options to fund the long-term storm drain infrastructure needs. This is a big project, and it's something that is definitely going to take us into Q2 of next year to have just some different ideas and options we can bring back to you to start to talk about. But we are keeping our feelers out there and looking for the different ways that other cities are accomplishing these types of things. So that's the first item that's still in the works. The next one is under the goal of identifying and reduce expenditures and enhance revenues. Recover low, no cost recovery programs for effectiveness, it's review, for effectiveness and recommend improvements. So we've already started undertaking this. We're looking at our recreation programs currently, and we're also reviewing fees in both that and our community development department. And those are 2 of our higher programs that are just program based. So meaning that people pay for the use of those programs. So the idea is to hit certain cost recovery levels. So we're evaluating that, and we'll bring those results back to council. So you'll notice in this first overall area, it's called fiscal sustainability, and it goes hand in hand with what Fred just presented. But most of this is front loaded because we really want to jump on our fiscal issues and try and make a real difference as we go through our 2 years. So you'll see that that's the heaviest area so far that we've completed things. Another big one in here is we've had a risk management assessment done we're a member of the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority. So they've come in and they've looked at our whole operation, all of our policies and procedures, and they've given us a list of recommendations of how we can improve to lower our risk, if you will, or costs that we have in the long term, because we pay for all of it. So the idea is to lower that as much as we can. So there's a whole lot of things that come out of that item that are on our plate that nobody sees as well. So going down to the next category, the next area is infrastructure. And within infrastructure, we've completed the initial 5-year CIP that we started working on. As you'll remember, we still need to work on I believe it's the sewer, the stormwater, and some of our recreational infrastructure. But we have a good start on that, and that's where some of the numbers came out to be presented to you recently, which is that we need closer to $4 million to keep up on the infrastructure costs that we have. A new asset database system is being born out of the facility assessments that we had done last year. So we're going to take all the data within that and we're going to put it into schedules. So that's something that we're looking to get done this quarter. We're working on that. The next item, the sidewalks is another one of these items that is a big, it's a big project. It's a big idea, if you will. So we do have a sidewalk program policy that we're looking at how can we up or revamp that policy. So to try and either accelerate sidewalk in installation or to accelerate sidewalk repairs as well. And some of, I mentioned our risk management program, that kind of goes together with that. So we need to finish a sidewalk inventory around the whole city. And from there, we'll know where there are more issues with sidewalks. And then we'll be working with the people who own those sidewalks to fix them in one way or another. And so that's a program that we'll be coming back and discussing with the council before too long. But that's probably what's really going to make the biggest change. When it comes to installing new sidewalks, that's going to be again, some policy discussions we need to have, because currently if somebody does more than $40,000 of improvements to their property, they have to put in a sidewalk in front of their house. And we also, at times, the city will go ahead and do infill. So it's one of those situations where we maybe want to think about a more equitable program in the long term of how we do that. And maybe we'll be able to accelerate some of the sidewalk installations. So one of the major things we really need in the city is an enterprise resource system. So our system, I don't know the exact year, I'm sure that we could ask Fred and Jessica to come tell us about how difficult it is to work with, but it's really old. And we really need to replace it. So one of the main things we want to get a leap on here is just putting together the RFP, which is a big project by itself. So that's something in the works, and you can see that that's a Q2 delivery. Within our IT infrastructure issue, we also have a lot of work to do there. And like I mentioned, we've done an assessment. We have a 6 and a 12-month program. Joyce is now leading up those efforts to help us get on track with that. We're also looking, though, to get into some other items within there. So we'll be working on that. And that some of those delivers were Q4. So that's going to be more of probably a layered entry. So develop a plan to retain key staff. And, there's a number of things that HR has been working on that. And I would say that overall, what we've started doing is more all-staff meetings. We're trying to bring people together more often to bring them up to speed on our budget issues and other things that are happening around the city. We're also looking at some new training ideas. And we also awarded the first City Manager Beacon Award this year, and that went to Arlen Moore. So I will let you know about that. Arlen works at our Public Works yard, and he had some great ideas. One was he took 2 cars and made them one and saved us a bunch of money with that. So he won the award this year. So if you see him, say congrats. Let's see, trying to move along here for you. So addressing critical physical infrastructure, back to the sidewalks. We're working on that to help to work on our safe routes to school plan. I think that the recent project we did that finished sidewalks on Cinex down to Congress was a big improvement on that. Also, there's been some Pine Avenue improvements that are being monitored right now, and they seem to be making a difference. And we'll hear, I'm sure, as we go. A couple other things there that are not yet started, our downtown streetscape improvement plan. We'll see as we get into this how much we're able to do within that. But we'll come back and we'll talk about it more. And the sewer master plan. So I believe it's been 10 years since we last had a sewer master plan. So next year we really need to start going again because that's how we set our fees. So without doing the plan, we won't be able to set new fees, which we'll need to start recouping. Climate action and adaptation plan is coming to you in April. So that's recently been in the BNRC. Fire safety inspections, the first year of those in the high fire severity zones were completed by Monterey Fire. This year, they're going to move to the outer ring, which is the next moderate zone. And then next year, they'll go back to the high fire severity zone. So they'll kind of flip-flop back and forth, but those are underway. George Washington Master Plan, you can see the Q4 deliverable on that. Same with Title 12, actually that's Q3. So that will be coming forward after the Climate Action Plan. I believe, or those might be reversed, to be honest with you. I believe those are reversed. So the George Washington Park Master Plan will be first. Assess the wildlife protection efforts. That is ongoing. I think, the new CSO plan that Chief Day just rolled out is going to be a big, not only start to this, but also a big data gathering effort. So that is doing well. And also the recreation drones band is also, I think, an effort towards this. So moving to the last focus area here, we have in our community development.
So ADUs are something that we're probably going to be looking at. We need to update our ordinance, and we also need to come up with our model ADU ordinance. And we also wanted to talk about a amnesty program of some kind in order to permit ones that are out there that might not be permitted at this point. So that would help add to our, check off some numbers on our RENA requirements. Affordable housing project location. That's we're planning on bringing in a discussion in May that kind of kicks this off and talks about it. So that'll be coming back pretty soon. Evaluate the city's water allocations. So we've done that. We've also done the business license process. So we've taken a look at that, and the deputy city manager Hallaby has made some streamline within that process to shorten it. We're looking for feedback on that, and so far we haven't heard the negative feedback. And obviously, often that's the way we know if things are working better or not, if we don't hear negative stuff. So evaluate timelines and permit processes for the CD department. And that is also something that our community development director is knee deep in right now, and we'll be making a lot of process changes. So to quickly jump over to the other items that are council directed projects. As I mentioned before here, the CAP will be before you in April. I'm sorry, we're going to jump past that table and go down to additional city directed work plan items. The golf course lease, we believe that'll be coming on the next agenda already. That's moving along really well. So we currently have the council has decided to put the stipend measure on the ballot. So that's out there. AI policy is going to be coming to you in most likely April. That's coming together, and we're learning a lot and ready to discuss that with you. Drone ordinance, we will revisit the commercial and the other institutional provisions within there. E-bike ordinance, the Traffic Safety Commission has kind of taken this on, which is, I think, is what the council wanted. So they're going to hold some of their own meetings and then make some recommendations up to the city council. We just finished up the polling on the long-term finances of the city that the council authorized in January, and we'll be presenting the results on that on 3/18. Chautauqua Hall improvements, we've hired the architect and the funding agreements in place, and those designs will be happening soon. We also need to bring you back the Chautauqua Hall policy information. That was a direction recently. Chinese Pavilion is similar to Chautauqua Hall, and then we're going to hire an architect, and we're going to have a funding agreement, and we will bring you plans to review on that. So the sign program, the Coastal Trail, there's been a lot of interest in new signs on the Coastal Trail, and we thought it might be good to first inventory what we have and kind of take a look at that. So we're going to bring an inventory of those signs and some ways we can improve. Dancing Monarch Sculpture was a project that I think was directed, I want to say, in fall of last year. And as we've gotten into that, we've realized it takes a little bit more work than we initially thought. We're going to need a CDP. It also needs more substantial footings and things that's all going to have to be costed out a bit more. And we're going to have to come back with a CIP on that, but it's underway. Crespi Pond maintenance, we've talked about this quite a bit, but there's still some work to go here on this for permitting. We needed a permit from the Water Resources Board and the CDFW. And then I believe then we'll be ready to award an actual contract or actually the golf course is going to do that. So that will hopefully within 6 months or so that work can get done. Central Lighthouse Congress intersection, that's going to come back in April or May with a proposal for a 4-way stop. Recreation program stats, that's been recently directed to staff, and we're working on that. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of these staff level ones. So emergency preparedness, so Chief Day has taken control of this one, and we're going to be doing some more drilling. We're going to get staff up to speed on training to make sure that we're the best we can be when it comes to emergency preparedness. Public information, we put a lot more effort on that lately, and I think our social media numbers are greatly expanded. Economic development, we're working with Councilman Pradori as the former EDC liaison. And we're looking at a number of things. So we'll come back in the near future and actually talk about that in more detail. Organizational assessments, you know about those. We've had several of them done, so we're making quite a few adjustments internally and things we can do to improve. ATC is just waiting on the developer to eventually submit. Another project coming soon will be a parking meter retrofit project, and that's to look at taking our coin-operated
meters around the ATC and making it more of a park mobile, something that's more efficient for us. And then also talking about the idea of maybe expanding some of that parking district. And then I mentioned business license and then records digitization. So that's all the projects that are outside of just the day-to-day stuff that staffs, tries to keep up on the basic services of the city. With all that, as long as more than you wanted to know, but if there's any feedback on the general work plan of things you would like to reconsider, or it would be great to hear that feedback tonight.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to go to public comment on this item. This is the work plan item. 12A. Any takers?
I'll be online, sir.
We'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the council for, this is a receive report, but also provide direction. So I'll just lead off today on this one. I think it's very organized. I mean, tells us exactly what we're doing on each little item. So it's a nice thing to have, you kind of put it on your fridge or something, like, these are all the things that we got to do. But yeah, so, and everyone seems to be working on something. So, it's a good thing. I mean, all of these things are important priorities for us. And I think it reflects a well-done set of goals, keep it to a limited scope set of goals and then be able to tackle and hit all of the goals. So that's what I'm seeing here. It looks great. And I really appreciate, I think this is important to have checkpoints and check milestones. And when right here with the 2 out of 8 quarters is probably a really good time to do that. So that's, those are my comments on this item. Who would like to go first? I think it's Chaps and then I'll go to.
Thank you. I like the fridge comment, but first of all, I would like to appreciate what staff is doing here. Broadly speaking, making it succinct for us to follow this, and also I see a lot of items that a lot of council members were interested in that we're making progress on. So I really think that's a great thing. I also would like to take this opportunity to recognize the deputy city manager / city manager pro tem. She's been really, I would say, taken on the role with enthusiasm and really showed the work shows whatever she's doing behind the scenes. I know a lot of staff are doing great work, but I just want to mention that the DCM, thank you for stepping up and doing what you're doing. I did have a couple of questions. One is we do have the Cedar Street, sorry, not the Cedar Street, but the intersection, the roundabout, the Sunset Corridor project, and I don't see that listed anywhere here. And I wanted to know why it's not listed, or is it like tracked somewhere else, or does it need to be listed, etc. On that same note, I also wanted to get some feedback on the Lovers Point Pier. Where does that stand in the grand scheme of things? Are we just kind of like holding it off for later? How does that work?
So Councilmember, actually both of those projects are in our capital improvement program, and this isn't all inclusive of our capital improvement program either. So there is a whole nother group of projects that are within that. So the roundabout is still within the CIP, and there's still work going on that on the outside by the engineering firm who's working on designing it. And Lovers Point Pier, so our Public Works Director, Deputy City Manager Dan Go has acquired $750,000 towards the 1.5 million. So we'll be back in, I believe, April to talk to the council about the remainder of those funds. But that project has been, I think, designed and permitted now, and we just need to, I think, move forward on it, to my knowledge. So, like I said, we could have brought that list as well, but this did not include CIP. There's a couple things in there that are CIP, but.
Okay, thank you for making that distinction. I just saw some projects being called out, and I'm like, why are these not called out? So that's my bad. But I think great work, and I actually like the format that you have. I know the fridge comment was there, but like really, I like the format, and I think it is really beneficial for us to review time over time what is going on with this format, which keeps it really easy for us to follow too. Thank you.
Councilmember Garfield, sorry, I forgot. Go ahead, Councilmember Garfield.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. I appreciate it. So first of all, it's very good to stop and remember how much is being accomplished. This is we tend to want to do more, and it's really easy to forget what's being accomplished behind the scenes smoothly, effectively. And so bravo. This is, I mean, really well done. I think the team is working very well together. So one of the things I've talked about before is the importance of having the whole team corralled and working well together. And in that, I include the BCCs. How do we make the best use of our established conduit to the public? And the members on the BCCs are there to reflect on things and give us feedback and interpretation of what's happening. That's why they speak about things. Anyway, so I went back to their quarterly reports and found that many of the BCCs are in fact working very well on some of the have a strong correlation with the goals that council has set out. However, I would like to propose to the BCCs that they get on board more firmly with our important goal of fiscal sustainability and look at the projects that they're doing and working on and looking at ways to streamline, make things more effective, make things more efficient, and to be more knowledgeable about the actual resources that will be involved in things that they're working on. That to me would be make their work even more helpful. And I don't know how to go about that, but I would like to suggest that we invite the BCCs to be more savvy about the fiscal implications of what they're working on and how they can propose things to us more filled out so we understand them better. Anyway, that's how I think we can work better with the BCCs than we have been.
Mayor Pro Tem Malauulu. Thank you. Mayor, I like your idea of putting it on the refrigerator, but I'm gonna have to take some pictures of my kids off the refrigerator. So anyway, just a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Morganson and the staff for working on this. Now, I got 3 questions on this. It says sidewalk policy review update. Does this include Del Monte Park also?
Councilman, there's currently a city council sidewalk policy that covers the whole city.
Okay.
It's got maps in it that shows where our breaks and sidewalks are and stuff. So it would, yes, it would definitely include Del Monte.
Okay, thanks. The other thing is on the ADU. I know we're pretty aggressive on having ADU units, but what if a family wants to start an ADU unit? Well, I guess this is a procedural question I can ask offline. Someone's mentioned to me that they were thinking about an ADU unit, but they're not going to rent it out. They're going to put their family in it. I guess it really doesn't matter if they put an ADU unit up, right? Or
So Councilmember, I'm not, I would imagine a family is just fine to go into an ADU if they chose to. Yeah, I would probably direct them to our planning counter where they can learn a lot more about.
okay, I'll do that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is the Chinese Pavilion. The Monterey Bay Chinese Association been really diligent about. I don't know how much they've raised, $200,000-300,000 or something. Will they be aren't they supposed to do the plans for that? I'm just curious about that.
I will ask Director Go if he has a little more details to that, but I believe it's working the same as Chautauqua Hall, where we hired the architect.
Mayor Pro Tem Emilio, so have not expended that much money yet. We've solicited the services of a landscape architect to do initial drawings, concepts, as we're weighing through what we want to do. We'll be bringing forth an item to the city council for consideration that will include a funding agreement for reimbursement, very similar to what we did with the Heritage Society in Chautauqua Hall. It's anticipated that will be before you. If we're ready in April, but it might slip to May because it's a lot of ideas, and they have raised approximately $200,000 for that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Go. The other question I had real quick, I'm sure the traffic commissions are going to be happy about the Lighthouse Central and Congress intersection with the stop signs coming up. And you already explained a little bit on the ATC project. They're just waiting for plans to be submitted. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilmember, our next step is just when they submit plans, we review them against all of the approvals and
So, okay,
Just to wait and see.
great. And we'll hear some more about the parking, your retrofit. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so that'll also be something that's coming to you, I believe, in probably early April.
Okay.
And again, it's going to be an initial proposal to just replace the existing parking meter heads that we have from coin operated to more of a park mobile, so people can do it through an app.
Okay.
And yeah, we don't have to collect coins and charge batteries and stuff.
Okay. And thanks to all you and the staff for dogging this work plan.
Thank you, Councilmember Rao.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to join Councilmember Pedori and say that I think one of your most effective things that you've done is to ask Ms. Hallaby to step up, and I think she has done an outstanding job. You know, this whole work plan review has, it takes me back to the very first report I read, which was the report from the consultant about the deficits in the way that the city has been running. And one of the first things that it said is that we are a little city trying to do big city things. And I think this work plan, I think that the items that we're working on speak directly to that. And I think you and your staff are doing yeoman's work to work through these on a shoestring and also with, you know, very thin staffing. So I look forward to the proposal about making us more efficient on the technology side so that we can even do more with less. I think that's going to be great. I also am very excited about the Lighthouse Central Congress, since that's where I live and that's where we walk multiple times a week. I think that's outstanding. And I've really enjoyed the updates because, you know, people will say, well, what does the staff do all day? Well, let me just tell you here, a lot. So you and your staff should be commended for everything that you've done. Thank you, Mr. Go. Thank you to everyone else that's sitting in the audience. We really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much. If there's no further comment, we will receive the status update, and I think that is very well done. And we're always going to continue to keep working on things, and we'll send emails and questions and have meetings with you and Joyce and Dan and continue to move the ball forward on various topics, and any attendant or ancillary topics can be brought up in separate agenda items as well. So we'll go ahead and receive the report, move on. And now we will welcome Mr. Shuto here from Monterey One Water to give a presentation.
Really appreciate the opportunity.
You're on.
Awesome. Thank you.
No timer, no timer. I'm a little scared to say that, but no timer for him. Okay.
Put the 1 minute timer up. Thanks all. I really appreciate the time to go do a quick overview on Monterey One Water, as well as some upcoming things that we have going on. It's been a little bit of time since I've been in before you, so it's great to be back. My name is Paul Shuto. I'm the executive officer of Monterey One Water. So we're your regional wastewater and recycled water purveyor. Our treatment plant is out in Marina, and I'll get into a little bit of what we do and then go into what we have planned. It's nice to see the projects you have going on, particularly from an infrastructure perspective, because we're just going to sort of build on that with this brief discussion. Next slide, please. So, like I said, we're the recycled water people around. Our mission, as you see there, we take very seriously because we are a regional entity. We're a joint powers authority that serves from Moss Landing all the way here through Pacific Grove along the coast, and the city of Salinas. So we do serve the northern part of the community. Our 5 strategic goals that we try to work around are, as you see, water and energy, obviously what we do day to day. Our community, serving our community, whether that be through agricultural irrigation, potable reuse, whatever we can do. we say employer of choice, obviously to do the type of work we do, we need to attract and retain really skilled people. In addition, we want to make sure that all our vendors and consultants and contractors are treated fairly, paid reasonably quickly, so they keep coming back to us. An appropriate use of technology. As you can imagine, with all the outlying facilities and everything that's at that treatment plant, we use a lot of technology, a lot of instrumentation, programmable logic controllers. The amount of infrastructure that our operators have to operate, control, keep an eye on alarms is tremendous. And having that resilient and resilient and multiple backups is required. And then lastly, positioning ourselves within the industry from a policy and regulatory perspective. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well. Next slide, please. So what do? You actually mentioned your sewer plan. And so Pacific Grove, when the water goes down your drain or out of your shower, comes out of your house, Pacific Grove takes care of the conveyance of that wastewater until our pump stations. And that's true for all of our member entities. So we own 6 large pump stations and about 30 miles of force mains, so large diameter force mains to convey the water at a treatment plant, which is the next little circle on there, wastewater treatment. On our 100-acre campus, we have a 30 million gallon per day treatment plant capacity. On average, we get about 17 million gallons a day. So that is 24/7, 365. So you can imagine the amount of infrastructure necessary to process, clean, and either reuse or discharge. Where the water goes after that is a sort of, it's not exactly a fork in the road. I guess it is. There's 3 options. So a 3-tine fork. One is recycled water for agricultural irrigation. Since 1998, we have been irrigating or help irrigate 12,000 acres in the Salinas Valley with recycled water. At the time, it was incredibly innovative. We were the first one to use recycled water on uncooked food crops. And there's a number of studies that went over a decade proving the safety and efficacy of that. The next place the water could go is our potable recycling water plant, or Pure Water Monterey. You may have seen back in October, we stood up our expansion of Pure Water Monterey that originally started in February of 2020. So as of the end of last year, we're producing with recycled water about 60% of the potable water demand for the Monterey service area of Cal-Am. Not on the resource recovery, because it's actually being discharged. There is some wastewater that we still discharge to the ocean through our outfall, which goes about 2 miles offshore in the Marine Sanctuary, about 130 feet deep, and meets all California Ocean Plan requirements. As you can imagine, moving and treating water, it takes a lot of energy. Our energy bill is on the order of about $9.2 million per year just for buying electricity and gas. So our board has been kind enough to allow us to embark upon a more aggressive renewable energy strategy. For about 30-something years now, we have used biogas. So in the wastewater processing, we generate biogas. That goes to fuel 3 cogeneration engines. They're frankly older internal combustion engines. And we produce about 90% of the power demands for that main wastewater treatment plant. Well, when these other ones came on, particularly the Pure Water plant, our demands increased 136%. Even though I mentioned that it's a 30 million gallon a day plant, Pure Water is only 7.6 million gallons a day. So even though it's small, it takes a lot more energy. So last December, we brought online a food waste receiving station so we can co-digest food waste with our biosolids, increasing biogas production so we can run those engines a little harder. I'm going to say May this year, we're going to be requesting of the board June, to award a renewable energy project to contractors to condition the biogas, because we're increasing the production, to make renewable natural gas that we can put back into the grid, sell to PG&E. In addition, we're going to replace those old internal combustion engines with a new technology. They're called linear generators. They're more efficient. They have less emissions. If there's any downside to them, it's that when you turn on your 500 horsepower pump, that you have that end rush of current, like, you know, when everyone turns the lights on in your house and it sort of flickers for a second. Same sort of thing at the treatment plant. Those new generators really can't sustain that, so there's other technology we can bring online. Anyhow, it's sort of a comprehensive look at how we can do better and have some price stability for our customers. As we all know what our electricity costs are doing and gas costs are doing, we want to have some input and control over that, being that we use so much. Now, I mentioned 35 years old, the generators and so on. So that's the next thing. Next slide, please. Last year, our treatment plant celebrated its 35th birthday. So yes, we had cake, and it's to celebrate all of our employees who have been doing a great job keeping it going. The maintenance is extraordinary if you can think about everything that's out there. And I would certainly invite all of you, if you'd care to, come on out for a tour. We have set tours that our public relations staff take you on, and we'd love to show you everything we have. Now, the downside of this, the 35-year-old thing, is in a marine environment and wastewater environment, which is tremendously aggressive, a lot of that infrastructure is starting to come to its end of its useful life, or it's past the end of its useful life. In all, we have about $1 billion worth of assets at the treatment plant and our pump stations, not our microphones, because I do beat those up a lot, so that value's down. You can tell I'm Italian. So we have to reinvest in that. Now, so this is where we start getting into what we've done, what we need to do, and the rates. But next slide, please. So what have we been doing? You've probably seen we've been doing some upgrades in pump stations. We've done some in Pacific Grove. Currently, we're working on one in Monterey and in Seaside. A lot of work going on at the treatment plant at our main campus there. And then replacement and efficiencies, that goes to the power generation and frankly, a lot of new instrumentation. As you can imagine, with whether it be our cell phones or our computers, technology improves dramatically. So things that I feel are new that I know we put in 12 years ago are bordering on obsolete now. So it's this constant renewal. That's what we're doing currently with our rates that we get from all of our customers. Next slide, please. This is sort of the big thing that's in the future. Electrical reliability. We're trying to replace pretty much our entire electrical system because that is 35 years old and there is an end of useful life to it. In addition, as you're doing a sewer master plan, we just embarked upon a treatment plant master plan, looking at what does the next 35 years look like for us. And then it may seem a little odd and not as glamorous, but our biosolids management process, with certain state regulations, we can't just take all of our biosolids next door to Regen Monterey. AB 1383 is saying it needs to be reduced, greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera. So we're looking at different ways to, number one, try to get rid of it in a more cost-effective manner than we're doing. And number two, trying to reuse it. There are technologies out there with high temperature pyrolysis where we can create biochar, which is a usable product, not only for us, for ag and the construction industry and elsewhere. So these current priorities, when you line them up, and we've scrutinized them with our engineering director, who said, hey, I really think we need this many projects, we've squished it down and extended the time frame because of the financial impact. Even with doing that, we're looking at about $500 million of capital projects over the next 10 years. It's not a straight line, $50 million a year. There's little curves up and down, but that's the nut to crack as we see it. Next slide, please. So when we look at our rates, and I get this question a fair amount, is I'm a wastewater customer. Am I paying somehow for Pure Water Monterey? Or I'm a Pure Water Monterey customer. Am I paying for ag irrigation? And the simple answer to that is no. As any public entity, we have 4 discrete enterprise funds. So we don't have different customer classes subsidizing others. And we try to keep those in their own silos, if you will. What I'd like to talk today is a little bit more about the wastewater fund because that's what's coming up before us. But just to touch on the recycled water in the blue, the non-potable, That is entirely paid for with a contract with Monterey County Water Resources Agency. The beneficiaries of that water is those 12,000 acres of ag land, which has, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around 26 landowners and ag growers. On the recycled water side, we have a separate enterprise fund for Pure Water Monterey. That is entirely paid revenues coming in from the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, which ultimately gets their revenue from CalAm. And Marina Coast Water District is also a customer of the Pure Water project. Lastly, we just brought up an energy discrete enterprise fund because we see that string of cash coming in the future. So we wanted to establish that now so then it could distribute out to the other 3 funds. But on the wastewater side, it's our 65,000 customers that, the rates account for about 95% of our revenue. We have interest and other things that accrue also, but the bulk of it is all of us paying our rates and the businesses. Next slide, please. So what drives the rate process? We have a rate consultant. It's fairly standard in the utility industry. You look at your revenue needs. Obviously, there's operations and maintenance. I already mentioned the $9.2 million worth of electrical costs. That's in our O&M bucket. We have about a little over $8 million of chemical costs. So there's some substantial costs just to do what we do. So O&M, salaries and benefits for all those employees that I just referenced that are the highly skilled and trained that make this all happen. But the big shift from past years is the increase in capital improvement projects. That ends up being about 40 to 45% of our overall budget. It's an investment in everything we own. So you look at those revenue needs, and then based on the number of customers, you come up with that rate model of what do we think it's going to look like? The board just last month did direct staff to keep with a flat rate system like we have had for a number of years. So that will be the same, no change there. But we, staff and our consultants, are going to propose to the board in the near future a rate increase over some period of time. Under Proposition 218, we can do that between 1 to 5 years, and we'll be heading to the board in March with that. We're still looking at a lot of the numbers right now. So I don't have a discrete, hey, it's going to be this amount, but I can tell you with the rate schedule and the preliminary information, it looks like we're going to be asking for about an 8% rate increase, which I know is substantial. What that means for that 85% of revenue from all of us paying, right now our rates are $54 per month for a single family dwelling. At the 8%, if the board agrees to go forward with it and then approves it, it would be $58.32. So that's sort of the difference that we're looking at. That, in conjunction with some existing EPA low interest loans, some bond issuances in the end of 27, early 28, we feel we can address that $500 million worth of projects that we have strung out over that period of time. I want to come back to, I understand that that is an encumbrance to a lot of people in our service area. When you think about what we serve, the board did ask us probably about 3 years ago now, maybe 4 years ago now, time flies, to put together a customer assistance program. And we've done that. This year, we funded it through non-rate revenue, because that's the only way we really can do it. We can't be taking from rates to subsidize someone. So it's non-rate revenue. We have about $200,000 in that account as of last year. We've helped out 900 customers that have applied and qualified as low income or meeting those. The downside of it, we actually had 50 other people that applied that we ran out of money, so we couldn't do that. So we'll be coming to the board again and say, can we have a little bit more? Can we shift around? Here's the impacts to our budget. We just feel that it has to work both ways. And there is a vehicle to get that done. Next slide, please. So I mentioned the Proposition 218 process. It is what we are legally obligated to do. And it is that part of getting the feedback from the customer, trying to understand where everyone sits. You'll see we're sitting here in March. In February, I mentioned that the board voted to keep the structure the same. In March, we'll bring the draft rate study that has those revenue requirements. And in general, ask the board to say, yeah, we want to do a 5-year, or no, we want to do a 3-year, or whatever it's going to be. And here's the proposed rate increases. That allows us to go back and start printing the Proposition 218 notice and all the legal requirements. It goes out to all the customers. It's not until April 27th that the directors will see what the exact rates are. If it's 8% for 85% of the people, it's that 58.32. But for the dentist's office and the restaurant and others, we'll have to calculate all those out as well. So if they agree to put that on the 27th, there's that public period. We send out notices, people have 45 days to comment, and whether that be send a letter back to us, an email, call in, show up at a board meeting, we keep tabs on all that. In June is that public hearing, so people can come and express their wishes, and then it's up to the board to make a decision at that point, hopefully. Because the reason I say hopefully is those decisions are contingent upon what our budget looks like, approving a budget before the end of the fiscal year. Thank you. So we've tried to do a very tight job planning and trying to optimize what kind of projects we're doing, as well as what the impacts are financially. And I mentioned last year, we got our pure water expansion done. We stood up the food waste receiving station, not to mention keeping the thing running for the entire year. I think we've shown that we have an incredible team. I mean, the staff, they get a lot done. They're well-respected in industry, and we're ready to keep moving. Doing all these projects is gonna be hard though, on everyone, but we're there. I do wanna just highlight real quickly, if it's okay, the Pure Water project. And next slide, please. So, like I said, ribbon cutting last October, came online. We're producing about 60% of the potable water demand. That is 7.6 million gallons per day that this plant that you're looking at can produce. It's what you're seeing there. It's reverse osmosis treatment. Now, something that I think is phenomenal that our external affairs staff helped out with and frankly drove is you see that the overall cost of this expansion was about $63 million plus or minus. Through state and federal funding of, beating down doors, putting in applications, doing everything they need to do. We do have a lobbyist in Sacramento and one in DC that helps us out. We brought in $42 million of grant funds for this $63 million project. So 2/3 of the project cost for this community was outside funding. The remainder was a low interest rate loan that we were able to qualify for with EPA called its WIFIA program. It's water infrastructure. You know how the federal government loves their acronyms. I don't remember what that is in all honesty. But it's just a testament to, I think, when you plan ahead, you can whittle down costs appropriately. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Shudo. As always, what a great presentation. And my only comment, I'm going to let my colleagues, if they want to make comment or ask you any questions, but my only comment is that even though these wonderful, beautiful things like our RO in our wonderful new facility, and I was there that day in October, we have those things. We also have really old other things that are necessary for the plant, and those things are what have been decaying over time, over the last 40 years. So those are what you're trying to address, and so I'm supportive of that effort. And anyone else want to, Councilmember Garfield?
So one of the things I know you're addressing is the we have a hand raised. Do we need to go out to the public first?
I just saw the hand, so we can do that. Would you like to wait?
I'll hold off.
Okay.
on that.
Thank you,
Go
Mayor.
ahead and recognize.
Inga Lawrence-Dormer.
Thank you, Sandra. I guess all I had to do that time was raise my hand. Yes, Mr. Shudo, that was a very slick presentation, and that's what everybody does when they're asking for money. Yes, I'm very glad that you have the lower income assistance program now, which basically gives me 2 months, two payments of less, less, that's all. Because you're talking in Pacific Grove that has doubled with our own sewer add-ons this fee. We are talking a huge amount here. We're not talking $53, that you're talking about. We're talking about a lot more. And because Pacific Grove has put so many add-ons on it. And yes, I always fill out a 218 in a nay way, and that's what I will be doing again because we just can't take it anymore. I mean, I can't. I'm a homeowner, but I'm elderly, I am infirm, and it is just plain too much for me, and Pacific Grove is the one who doubles the bill. But thank you for your little public assistance for the lower income now. That is very helpful. I've been outspoken at those meetings also. So thank you for your presentation. I know what to do.
Thank you very much.
Kyle Lindstrom. Kyle Lindstrom, you have the floor.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Garfield.
Thank you.
Public comments closed on this item.
Okay, thank you. So I know you're doing things about sea level rise. And so I know a lot of folks are very interested in what you're doing. Is this the right group? About the project to relocate the electrical systems for the pump station. And I know that we have some citizens that are very concerned about that. Can you speak to the process and the opportunities they will have to weigh in?
Yes. So I believe you're speaking about our Coral Street Pump Station,
Yes.
which is sitting right there in the water and frequently in weather, waves crash over the pump station. Our electrical gear is in the pump station. So we've had times where we had to wait for PG&E to come out to disconnect the power at the street because it was unsafe to send our people in. So in an effort to be able to access that so we don't have a spill or any environmental issues, we're attempting to move just the electrical gear elsewhere. The pump station would still be there. So if and when waves crash over or things happen, at least our people can get to it because they can disconnect the electrical elsewhere. So in terms of the process, we did go through an environmental process looking at alternatives. And I don't remember the exact month that we did put that out, and we got a number of comments. And so what we ended up doing is instead of moving it towards our board like the schedule showed, we sort of put the brakes on it, just to try to understand people's interests to see if we can address anything while still making this critical piece of infrastructure safe and working. We'll be coming back to your council in the coming months to do two things. One is, I know it's our process, so it's not your responsibility, it's our process, but to help inform you and get some feedback. I think what had happened, if I may sort of go on a bit of a tangent, is the location that was selected, the architectural renderings that were used, they tried to match the area, like the clubhouse and things like that. In listening to what people said is like, what's this giant thing? Well, it was to match it architecturally. From a functional perspective, a lot of that may not have been necessary. So we're looking at ways to, instead of making it appear like everything else, try to make it blend a little better. And hopefully that addresses some of the concerns. I know it won't address all of them, but we're trying to look at a variety of options and choose, number one, the least environmentally impactful as well as one that will work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Jeff. Tina.
Go ahead.
It was tie. It was a tie.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shudo, for coming and providing the presentation. We actually made our entire meeting short so that we could listen to you. So thank you.
And then I took it too long. I'm sorry.
It's all good. So we have time for questions. But I did have a few, at least just for my benefit, some understanding here, if nothing else. But typically, it's not just capital equipment, right? Like it's obviously aging infrastructure is always like a thing, but you also have, like, you just finished the PWM expansion, so there's ongoing maintenance that you require for those too. So in your like spiel to the board, are you considering both of those aspects or just aging infrastructure?
No, we are looking at the budget holistically. So certainly operations and maintenance, salaries and benefits, and the aging infrastructure. It's just when you look at our budget as a pie, the shift has been truly in the capital side of things. But no, what will go to the board is a comprehensive budget that addresses those operations and maintenance issues. And they're increasing dramatically. I mentioned, we all know what electrical costs are doing. Chemical costs have gone up just since COVID, which is really interesting to me, significantly. A lot of the manufacturers dropped out of the market during that time or went elsewhere, meaning instead of coming to wastewater or public utilities, they're making chlorine for other purposes. So what we've seen is a little bit frankly, a lack of competition. And a lot of these companies won't even hold their prices good for a year. So if I go back 10 years ago, we could ask you for a chemical contract and you'll give us 3 years worth of costs. At this point, they're like, no, this is your cost for 6 months. So there's a lot of variability out in the market right now, but we are addressing that as best as we can.
Yeah, I would expect, like, there's a lot of things going on. I would say tariffs, I would say labor, there's a lot of components to this. It's not just lack of competition. So I would expect, so we're all facing the same issue, not only here, but other boards too. The other question I had is the Prop 218. Has this been done in the past? And my question is, has it been done in the past? And what is the threshold for somebody to say that it's blocked or not?
So this has been done in the past. Proposition 218. I don't know when it started. I mean, I've been doing Prop 218s probably since early 2000s. Was it the end of the 90s?
I'm not sure when it was, but certainly since the 2000s onward, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think my first one I did was like in 2003. So we've been doing this for a long time as an industry in the state of California. Now, to the other question of the threshold for the board is if you get protests of 50% plus one. So I'm going to round up around, we have 65,000 accounts. So if we get protests of 32,501, the board could not move forward with those increases. Now, what I will tell you is this board, as well as others I've been involved with, it's very difficult to get to that threshold where it's a no-go, particularly with this many customers. But when we've gotten to literally like 200 protests, the board is really critical. And now from a percentage standpoint, that's really small, but it's enough inertia that they scrutinize it. So even though the threshold is very difficult to get to, I think the voice of the people does impact the 10 decision makers on our board.
And that is also helpful. So thank you. And I think 200 people, you can fill up the room for sure. So I think that's it's a crowd. Just the final point, I know you're addressing affordability and lower income kind of items. I would just encourage you to find more avenues to do it so that everybody is taken into account when we're considering this race. But looks like you're on the right track. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rao.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Shuto. It's all fun and games until the sewer doesn't work. And then, I think this presentation helped to better understand. I mean, I've sat on the board, so I understand the headwinds and the things that you guys are going through. But, you know, when you understand the infrastructure needs, it's not unlike what we're going through in our budget process as well. We've got aging infrastructure. We have to make those, improvements, or, you know, we're just going to impact the quality of service overall. People throw out a number, it sounds like $4. Well, you know, it's expensive. And I think the fact that we've been able to create enough water to hopefully get us out of this TRO situation that we're in. I think Monterey One Water has had an awful lot to do with that. And I think, you know, with the rest of us just being aware of what it's going to cost, but also being aware that there are a lot of people out there that are struggling today. And I think whatever we can do to help mitigate that, or, you know, ramp that up in a thoughtful way, so it's not as big of an impact to your customers. I mean, I hear it all the time. People like, what are they going to do with well, you know, it's a delicate balance. And I don't envy you having to walk that tightrope, but I do appreciate the presentation, and take it easy on us.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And I would like to say, I do appreciate the proactivity to trying to find ways in particular to bring the energy costs down, since that is such a huge expense. And I definitely agree with the request to try and do what we can to help. What seems like a little amount to some people can actually be a really big amount to others. So anything we can do to kind of ramp up and have more consistency in helping, I think that would be great. I wanted to loop back actually to the Coral Street Pump Station. And so we've heard a lot about, you know, the concerns, and that's good to know that at least part of that could be solved architecturally. But is there any chance of a different location being considered, something, because in looking at the plans, it is incredibly close to the neighbors. Is there any place else that is being considered as a location?
Yeah, so we did look at Esplanade Park. We also, and I don't know if Dan's still here, we looked at a couple other places. Something else was looking at where the old treatment plant was. Now, some of these get incredibly cost prohibitive. If you think the reason that pump station there, it's at the low point. So everything sort of flows to it. And then we have force mains that leave it. So if we wanted to put it, you know, up over there at the dais, we'd have to reroute all those lines. So it's not necessarily just the cost of the pump station itself. It is making sure everything can flow over there, and then the force main that leaves it. So when I say over there, I mean by the treatment plant. It gets into the $20-30 million when you start adding the pipelines in with a pump station. Esplanade Park, I think it was very similar concerns in terms of visual and impacts to people. So a number of places were reviewed. And you're right, it is near homes. I'm not an architect, and if you ever come by my house, you'll know that. But I think there are definitely ways, when we've done some of the geotech borings, before you hit sort of that bedrock, there's a little bit we could excavate. So maybe we could sink it down a little bit. Would it be more expensive? Yes, but it wouldn't be $30 million to go down the road. And you know, when you go to other golf courses, you can see how they build in swales to hide where they can store a lawnmower or a ball retriever, whatever it may be. So I've encouraged our consultants to look at that direction. Is it still going to impact people? Yes. But could we minimize that to a greater degree?
And I do appreciate that comment, because I know that a lot of the letters, because we were being CC'd on a lot of them, had to do with it is a very active wildlife area as well. So if you are indeed kind of integrating it more to where it flows that would help. I know there's views and kind of going and standing there and looking at where it's proposed to be. It is right there, practically on the sidewalk. But I'm assuming because of the golf course location, in that location, there's no place to put it, even slightly move further away from the road.
I mean, I don't know. And I apologize that I don't know that, but I was just going by what was evaluated from an environmental perspective for that document. We can look into that.
Okay, and because I know we're going to keep getting these questions, and I think they're very important questions. There have been issues of property value as well. And so the kinds of things we need to be mindful of, it would be helpful to know that we pursued the alternatives that really are kind of respecting all of the concerns that were raised. So that's much appreciated if that could be addressed.
Absolutely.
Can we try one more time for Mr. Lindstrom if he's on? We're gonna try one more time, but if it doesn't come up pretty quick, we're gonna move away.
I do not see him on.
Okay, if he's gone, then he,
Mayor,
that's-
yeah.
I previously closed public comment, but I saw him raise his hand about 4 more times, so I was trying. Okay, any other comments up here? All right, Mr. Shudo, thank you so much. Always excellent presentation. Thank you for everything you do, Monterey One Water. We really appreciate you guys. And I think that takes us to the end of the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining in.